Hello, welcome along to Renew Every Morning. It is the 22nd of September. I'm so thrilled that you're with me. So today we're going to be thinking about being the church, not just going to church. I'm still working through my book, The Bonsai Conspiracy, and these little conversations that we're having, I think are very helpful for me to remind myself of the kind of core thesis of when we set the Grace Project up. So as you may know, it's been our 25th anniversary, was celebrated a couple of days ago, so my mind is still whirring over that. But I'm enjoying kind of walking back through this book, and I hope it's proving helpful to you as well. Because today we turn to a really, really big question. I mean, it's a massive question, I think, which is the idea of it sits beneath kind of so much of our Christian experience, and has been such an issue, I think, for so many of us over the years. And that is this idea about what do we believe about church? Okay, well, this isn't about kind of not so much what do you do on Sundays, or not even where do you attend. At its heart, at its most fundamental, what I want to talk about is what is the church. Now, I have to tell you something, that I grew up as a Catholic. I was raised by nuns, so I was raised in a Catholic convent. I went to a Jesuit college, and I went to church, believe me, everywhere from altar boy to being projected to go off to the St. Edmund's College to become a good Jesuit boy, which was thwarted for reasons that I won't weary you with right now. But the fact is, and then later on stopped going to church for a very long time, then came back to the church after a big crisis, then kind of took it all on, embraced the whole thing, became, the kind of head of a Bible school. I spent all my life in church. But I came out of the other end of that with a real deep-seated sense of disappointment. And I think I want to kind of come back to it today because I do think I'm really interested in the idea of spiritual community. What I'm not interested in is religious churches. And the word we have in the New Testament for church is the word ecclesia. It's a lovely word. But it's a spoilt word. It's like so many of the words that we've just damaged. And it kind of needs a fresh start, I think. So, as I say, the New Testament uses this word ecclesia, and it simply means a gathering of citizens. That's essentially what it means. People that are called out, assembled for matters of life and welfare. You could have all sorts of ecclesias. And Paul and the early word church used this word in a very interesting way. It was with the qualifier that this ecclesia they had is in God. So it's not just civic, it wasn't just social, but it was a spirit-filled community. And I prefer the word ecclesia, although it's kind of hard to make it stick. I prefer it because the word church just feels to me so damaged. I think we've ended up, instead of having what I might call a vibrant Christianity, we've ended up with a dead churchianity. And despite all the tricks and pyrotechnics and defibrillation machines that they operate and use in church these days, it still is just noise and nonsense in the main. I'm sorry to say, and I don't mean to be disrespectful. Because I think the connotations are too problematic. They're about pews and programs and buildings and budgets. But ecclesia takes us back to the kind of just the simple root, which is a group of people in whom Christ dwelt. And actually the interesting thing about the ecclesia, the thing that really interested me, is about the ability, and an ability we've lost, and even I think a desire we've lost, to meet under the headship of Christ. Not to have a vicar or a pastor or a bishop or heaven knows an apostle over us, but actually to be able to gather as a community of people in Christ. But you see, the real question you've got to ask yourself, if you're going to ask it about, it's not what is the church. The thing you've got to ask yourself first and foremost is the kind of priming question, is what is a Christian? You see, when I first started talking to other leaders about this, their answers were really sobering to me. They would talk about the things that Christians do or don't do. But behavior is just surface level. I do the things I do because I think the things I think, and I think the things I think because I believe the things I believe. So what I need to understand is, if I come to your kind of Christian identity iceberg, what's under the surface? What is there? You see, I can see what the above the waterline action is, but what lies beneath the surface is more identity. And I think the gospel really flips the script for us, because in gospel speak, it's not what you do that defines who you are. That's not what happens. It's who you are that defines what you do. Our doing comes out of our being. So what are we? Well, the New Testament gives us so many metaphors. We've already looked at some of them. But Jesus in John's Gospel says, we're branches on the vine. Okay, fine. So that's if the relationship is that I'm a branch on the vine. I've got it. Okay, fine. An expresser of the indwelling life of Christ. Paul says, you've got your jars of clay holding this treasure. Oh, okay, I get it. So I'm some kind of container of the divine. Paul again says in 1 Corinthians, you're temples. Oh, I see. I understand that. So a Christian, if you will, is a container, a conduit of his life. That's what we do. Flesh, how should I say this? We are flesh in which the Spirit manifests. And that changes everything. Because if God is Spirit and God is love, then the Ecclesia is love embodied. That's all we are. Not a building made of stone but a body of branches, of vessels, of temples, carrying fruit for others. Now, the thing is this. The point is not going to church. The point is being the church. And that's the question. You see, the real question isn't what's the point of going to church. The question is, what's the point of being the church? And that answer is simple. It's that you and I could manifest God's love and compassion and understanding everywhere. That the fruit of the gospel might be born in us. And that's why Jesus said this. He said, by this, all people, that's churchy people and non-churchy people, all people will know that you are my disciples. How comes? How will they know that? If you love one another. It doesn't say everyone will know you're my disciples because you go to church. It doesn't say that. He says everyone will know that you're my disciples because you love one another. And that's what Paul told us. He calls the body to be built up until we all reach the full maturity and the full stature and the full measure of Christ. Mission, worship, yes, of course. But at the heart is edification and restoration. Love flowing outward as fruit literally born from the abiding in the vine. So then, okay, all right, fine. So then why do we meet? Help me with that. Why? What's the point of gathering? What's the point of us meeting as an ecclesia in the first place? Well, because you're saved by faith alone. You're not supposed to live alone by faith. You see, the idea here is that the gospel is not designed to be embraced in isolation. Not at all. It's we to embrace Christ is to enter into his body and all its diversity and all its various expressions. We meet, I suppose, not for independence, not for codependence, but to realize our interdependence is the point. And when we used to meet at the Grace Project, the thing I used to say all the time was this, that the Sunday meetings we had, those Sunday afternoon meetings we had in Chiswick in West London, and so many of you would have been there, those gatherings I used to describe as being a portal, not a panacea. They were the kind of wardrobe into which you could walk through into your relational Narnias. It's the entry point to a shared life, and that was what was really exciting about it. Our goal wasn't just simply services. It was, even if the meetings were good, it was koinonia we were after. We had a shared life of God flowing through us for the benefit of each other. It was wonderful. And when we first began those meetings, I realize now as I think back, initially they weren't a lot more than a kind of allergic reaction to the aggressive, unhelpful Pentecostalism we've been in. Healing, yes. Therapeutic, yes. But kind of still church minus. And over time, the Lord began to nudge us deeper with that call that was really deep in my heart, that it's time to leave Haran. In other words, I'd left Egypt of the institutional church, but I hadn't yet arrived in the promised land of what Ecclesia could really look like. And I realised that the promised land wasn't bigger crowds. And I've talked to, over the years, gosh, when I look back now, those 25 years, I've talked to groups of thousands and thousands of people. It wasn't just the size of the crowds. It wasn't just slicker programs and a better worship card and more beautiful literature. And we had it all. It was just koinonia. We started the Grace Project 25 years ago, more than 25 years ago actually, sitting in one of the guys' homes, a lovely couple that we used to walk with many years ago, a couple called Nigel and Karen, and we sat in their home with, gosh, was it Nigel, Karen, Nick, Tom? I can't remember, 6, 7, 8 of us, Colin, Liz, I can't remember, 8, 10 of us or something. But I do remember this. We were able to feed the entire community as it was then with a party bucket of KFC, and we used to sit there and jump around that and just untangle ourselves in the scriptures. They were incredible times, but it was just simple. It was just simple. It was Christ in me, not just for me, but for you. And agape was our promise. Very simple. But our meetings evolved. Of course, we ended up with formal teaching, informal discussion, food, worship, all the rest of it. But no membership, no tithes, no pressure. The markers are very simple. Freedom in Christ, other-centeredness, informality, fellowship, conversation, not control. And that's where we went. But always food. We would always food. Nothing builds community like breaking bread. But what people really want, well, I remember asking these three questions to the community when we were forming it. And this was the interesting. When you hear the word church, what comes to your mind? And people would say vicar, pew, boredom, tithing, shoulding, religion. When you think of the early church, what comes to your mind? They would say Jesus, power, healing, community, union. And then I'd say, which church do you want to belong to? They'd say that one, the Jesus one, the community one, the belonging one. And that's it, isn't it? Beneath all the clutter, beneath people they just long for Jesus, for community and for belonging. And in a city as impersonal as London, that longing is deeply holy. It was such a fun place that we had then. From what we were kind of aiming at is from Christ in me to Christ in me for you. And that shift, I think, is just a seismic one. And this isn't just literally Christ in me for my benefit. It's Christ in me as me for your benefit. And Christ in you as you for my benefit, our combined benefit. And we built something around that. That was koinonia. That was Ecclesia. Now, it happened, the worship was amazing as well, by the way. But that was just part of the mix. It was perfect. We didn't have an institution to serve. We had a life to share. Not a bonsai religion, but this wild, crazy oak of grace. And it was wonderful to see what happened. So let me ask you again, what do you believe about church? If church is a place you go, you'll eventually, I think, be disappointed and just go to somewhere else. A bit like a kind of spiritual supermarket shopping to the one who's got the best, buy one, get one free deal. If church is a people you are, a people that are indwelled by Christ, bearing fruit for others, well, I think you'll discover love and union and freedom. I really do. We meet not to perform. We meet to participate, not to prove ourselves, but to share his life and just express ourselves. That's the point of it. And the Ecclesia certainly is not the pot that bonsais you, not at all. It's the vineyard where the vine spreads his life through many, many branches. And I don't know what you're doing in terms of your church communities and your spiritual communities, but I really encourage you to be part of something, but something that gives life to you and you can give life to it. I really do. I miss our early days. I'll be honest with you. I look back 25 years with real longing because we had something very special there. Today we have a very simple, stripped down, but rather beautiful little community that meets online. We call it Grace at Home. And it's lovely, and we just come and we just are together and share some time. Is it perfect? No. Does it fulfill all of our needs? No. But it does create a nice point of reference where we can just come together as a group of people where we know there's compassion, there's non-judgment, there's the freedom to express yourself. You can speak your mind, say what you think. There's no right, no wrong. Just this desire to be together in Christ. And it's not a panacea again, it's just another portal. And I encourage you to find your portal, for you to be the portal, so people can step through the wardrobe of your spirit and into the Narnia that is the Ecclesia of Christ. All right, listen, God bless you. Lovely to talk to you today and look forward to seeing you tomorrow where I'll be thinking about moving towards spiritual growth. Look forward to that. All right, bless you. Bye-bye.